Howdy folks, welcome to the channel Rockin' the Country. I'm Don. This is part 5 of a 5-part series courtesy of Renee Mooberry, who made a gift to the channel for me to do 5, basically break down a 53-minute CMT special on Dwight Yoakam's history. And they're down into like 10 and 11-minute segments. And this is the final segment. So Renee, thank you for the gift and the request, and it's been quite a journey knowing more about Dwight. And I was just telling my girlfriend this morning too about this 53-minute special and what I've learned about Dwight, because she's from Kentucky, my girlfriend, and so I'm wearing this in honor of Dwight, where he was born in Pikeville, Kentucky, and then at about age 1 or so, his family moved to Columbus, Ohio, but every weekend they traveled back down Route 23. I learned in the comments, forgive me, I didn't write down the person's name who shared that with me, but the Hillbilly Highway, which is, Kentucky and the, Appalachian Mountains and such on up into Ohio and Michigan when all the work started. And I read Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance right after it came out. And, he wasn't vice president yet. I don't even think he was into politics yet. I think he had just gone to Yale. I think it was Yale and then law school and so on, but he went, military and then yada, yada, yada. But I remember reading in there about the Hillbilly Highway, and I guess that's Route 23. So anyway, his family would make that trip, Dwight's family, every weekend back to Pikeville or back to, certain parts of Kentucky where they were from. So I'm wearing this hat in Dwight's honor. But one thing I did learn is that Dwight enrolled after high school. He went to Ohio State University for a year or two before dropping out, basically, and going to Nashville to give it a go there. But when he was at Ohio State, he studied philosophy for a little bit. I don't know how many courses he took, but I had been saying in prior reactions based on his song content as well as his interview with Whoopi that Dwight's a philosopher. He never said it in those formal terms, if you will, but I said he thinks like a philosopher. He processes things like a philosopher. I am a philosopher based guy. I was a philosophy major at Rutgers, and I just love the depth of thought, and that shows up in my videos too. Somebody just left a comment yesterday on a video that I reacted to, I don't know, about 2 years ago, and I guess they just saw the reaction, and it's like, dude, it's just a song. Don't look so deep into it. And I'm like, well, 1, that's how my brain works. I do process things on that level. But 2, I'm thinking, well, why don't you try working a little harder to see the depth of what a songwriter might be trying to communicate? Because there's a lot of fun in that, at least for me. So anyhow, I'll continue to present things the way I present them. And I don't insist other people look at it the way I do, but I do open certain vistas that others may not see in the songs. Fine, that's great. And if I overthink it, so be it. One thing I don't want to do in life is underthink something. So anyway, let's get into Dwight's final episode, 5 of 5, and see how they conclude this thing. I'm going to wear the Kentucky hat until now, where I'm swapping it out for my LSU hat. And Renee is a Southern Louisiana girl currently residing in Vegas, Las Vegas. Here we go.
Don't forget what got you here.
The second project that Dwight had begun in 1995 was a new album. In October 95, Reprise released Gone in follow-up to Dwight's previous triple platinum this time. In contrast to the resounding success of Sling Blade, the response to the album from the label, from radio, and from the record-buying public was lukewarm at best.
The Gone album was really great artistic expression, as they say, but unfortunately didn't have really anything on it that was a commercial success.
The songwriting, I thought, was really good on the next record after this time, but it was a very, very much a disappointment in the sales.
Dwight's music career and his film career were moving in opposite directions. As far as the label was concerned, Dwight's divided energies were to blame.
You always play the radio game, the politically correct, going to the right places, talking to the right people. And Dwight simply didn't have time to do that anymore.
I think he can do the film and I think he can do the music. I don't think he can do both at the same time. And I think that's where the rub is, that it's trying to serve two masters, and it's very difficult.
I don't think we've recovered from that, from going triple platinum to 360,000 units. It was pretty devastating.
That would be devastating, but it is something when you sell 360,000 units of something. 99.9% of artists out there would love to sell that many units, but when you have a label behind you and they're putting the kind of money into you, and 90% of artists lose money for labels. You know, they get signed, they get vetted, they get songs, producers, there's money put into them. There's marketing, there's all this that labels have these expenses that they need to at least recoup. And the thing is, like for every, Miranda or Blake or Carrie on the label, the other artists by and large lose money for the label. So it's the one or two superstars that recollect. And if they were counting on Dwight to be one of those guys carrying, and they were carrying the financial torch in a sense to keep the label afloat and give other artists a chance to become super platinum and all this stuff, then 360,000 just doesn't cut it.
Other changes were also occurring in Dwight's life. His 3-year relationship with model Karen Duffy was coming to an end. The demands and separation of 2 high-profile careers finally took its toll.
Dwight and I had so much fun together, but he lives in LA and I live in New York. And so it was a perfect dating relationship. But I think when you get a diehard New Yorker and someone who loves LA, it can be great for a few years. But then when it comes to the point where you're just like, well, you know what? I think neither one of us is too eager to move, no matter how much you like the other person.
I guess that what you realize is that your journey in life, as much as you love somebody else, is not maybe always going to parallel their journey in life.
While the romantic love affair between Dwight and Duff had come to an end, a tender, committed friendship endured.
I'll always have a huge, love in my heart for Duff.
The women that he's dated really, really love him. I mean, and that's, no matter how things end, I think it's very nice that he still has great relationships with all the women that he's dated.
Free from emotional commitment, Dwight's dual career continued as he starred in the movie The Newton Boys in 1998, for which he again received critical raves. Musically, he had a major radio hit in 1999 with a remake of the Queen classic, Crazy Little Thing Called Love. The hit was due in part to the song's use in a Gap clothing commercial. But the occasional hit would not slow down the inexorable pull that Dwight felt from his film career. He met and began dating actress Bridget Fonda, daughter of old friend Peter Fonda, and soon found himself committed to a film that he, Bridget, and Peter would star in called South of Heaven, West of Hell. Acting as producer, director, and screenwriter, he would also score the film's soundtrack. The artistic labor of love began with high hopes, only to head south like its title. Only a few days into filming, the financial backing for the film pulled out. The entire project turned into a nightmare.
To get out on a location and have the financing fall through. I mean, this happens in the film business. You can dream up the worst horror scenario in the world. It's going to happen in the film business. And this one, although he wasn't the first to have this happen, it's still devastating.
We continued with, loans and bailouts and kind of crawled along and got through the 26 days of shooting and got off the set and came back here still pretty crippled up from the experience.
Whether it was the right thing to do or wrong thing to do, he didn't care. He said he would do it, and he did it.
Ultimately, Dwight's production company filed Chapter 11, but not before the project disintegrated into a tangled web of lawsuits and finger-pointing. To add insult to injury, the movie failed to generate any distribution or ticket sales.
It's the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life on a variety of levels, all levels.
Dwight Yoakam started the decade of the 90s in the middle of a dream come true. He ended the decade in the middle of the worst nightmare of his life. His future in music and his future in film were now both in jeopardy. Coming up, radio turns a deaf ear to Dwight Yoakam.
People aren't calling demanding to hear the Dwight Yoakam.
Dwight Yoakam's ride through the 90s had been a roller coaster. His West Coast update of hardcore twang had been accepted and embraced by America, and he himself had been hailed as a worthy successor to the mantle of Buck Owens. His acting career had taken off with a powerful role in the movie Sling Blade, starring Billy Bob Thornton. But the end of the decade had brought declining music sales and a devastating financial loss from an independent film, written, directed, and starred in by Dwight. In 2000, when Dwight released Tomorrow Sounds Today, it too failed to generate excitement.
He still had a lot of fans out there at country radio that played the singles we put out, but again, they just called and said, hey, we're sorry, we're not getting phones. People aren't calling, demanding to hear the Dwight Yoakam record. So we sort of felt like the writing was on the wall.
In April of 2002, after 17 years of platinum success, Dwight Yoakam and Warner Reprise parted ways.
There was kind of a feeling of the cycle having run its course. You know, I mean, our deal was completed. We fulfilled our obligation to Warner's in terms of delivering records.
He just felt it was time, you know, they don't get what I'm doing anymore as much, and it was time to go.
In 2002, after 4 years together, Dwight and actress Bridget Fonda also parted ways.
And, you know, just wish nothing but happiness for her.
But for all the changes and losses of the recent past, Dwight is rightly optimistic. In 2002, he started his own record label, Electrodisc Records.
Ooh, I didn't know he had done that. But that's another financial risk, starting your own label. But maybe he's got some money squirreled away that he didn't have to pump into the film. I'm guessing that he did or does. But that's a whole nother animal, starting a record label yourself, even if you know the business. Because, well, let's see where, obviously he's successful, because I'm still reacting to him today and people still love him. But let's see what this chapter brings him.
It just seemed like the right thing to do at the right time. You know, I mean, it's still all about the music.
I'm the sole artist on the roster at this point. And probably that's in the best interest of everybody involved. I can maintain my focus on me.
Dwight's acting career is as strong as ever. Dwight won solid reviews for terrorizing Jodie Foster in the film Panic Room. And in 2003, he wrapped filming of Hollywood Homicide, in which he co-starred with Harrison Ford.
Hopefully I'll be able to have the opportunity to continue acting, because I really enjoy acting. And given the right circumstance, I may direct again. And that's not a threat, that's a promise.
Dwight Yoakam's place is already secure in country music's heritage, regardless of the future. He has fashioned a unique niche for himself as one of the premier singer-songwriters of the modern era.
I truly admire Dwight. He is absolutely an American essential, American music essential, and a total original. He has my utmost respect.
I said unique.
There's nobody like him. Nobody sounds like him. He's an acquired taste. I mean, you either love him or you don't. And I think that all these years that he's made records, he's been true to himself.
You look at Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson, any of those people, they were cool. They were cool. They were rebels. They smoked, they drank, who knows what they did. But they were real. And I find that Dwight is one of the only artists today that is still that.
Yeah.
I would just hope that I'm remembered fondly, and I brought pleasure through what I did musically to people, and I brought the same, even a modicum of the kind of pleasure that I derived from my musical inspirations to other people.
He's still Dwight Yoakam, and there's only one. You know, there's only one.
All right. I've been on the right track on this stuff, Renee and everybody, when I was saying I wasn't into Dwight. I wasn't into country, as you know. And then when I got into country, I started getting into it, dabbling into it about 30 years ago, when I bought Billy Dean's CD, Merle's Greatest Hits, Alan's Greatest Hits, and Cherie Austin, believe it or not. She had a song on there, One Solitary Tear, and then I got into the other songs on it. But I hadn't left rock yet. That was still my thing. But over time, I eventually got into more Nashville country, but not pop country. You know, there's really good stuff coming out of Nashville. Alan Jackson, there's some Miranda and such. But I hadn't made the leap into George Strait, George Jones, Hank Sr., and all that. Then when I started the channel and yada, 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 up to today, I wasn't into Dwight. And by virtue of doing the reactions, mostly that Renee had made gift requests for, and baptizing me into the Dwight Yoakam family, of which she's the #1 worldwide fan. Thank you for that, Renee. I was using the word unique a lot for Dwight. And I'm like, he's just unique. And that's what these folks were saying in the end. That's what Shania was saying there, where, you know, she pointed to 3 of the 4 highwaymen, Willie, Waylon, and Chris. And she's like, they were badass, drinking, smoking. They were themselves. They were true to themselves. And a lot of artists are true to themselves. They just don't have commercial success. And that's why I applaud success, because it just means that a number of dynamics, many of which were unintended, came together and it worked. You know, I forget which artist it was. I don't know if it was Van Gogh or Rembrandt. It might have been Van Gogh, who didn't sell any significant pieces of artwork in their lifetime. It was only after they died, maybe a century or 2 later, that their works became worth tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. People just may not be ready for it. So many dynamics have to come into play for somebody to be a commercial success. And that's where, I think it was Pete Anderson or somebody said when it comes, no, it was someone else. It might have been like an art music critic in this ending part here, who said when it comes down to it, it's all about the music. And it's not. That is part of it, but it's about the money too. You have to have the money to survive. You have to have the money so that production on a movie isn't shut down, or production on an album isn't shut down, or the label doesn't boot you off it and, you know, drop your record deal. So when you try going it alone, and you can make it work. And if you have a commercial success on your own label and you're the one artist that you need to support, you can absolutely crush it financially, artistically, and all that stuff. But the thing is, on labels, they do have people with their ears to the ground, paying attention to what people want, studying trends. I mean, it isn't just like, oh, I like this, let's do that. Like, there's a lot more backing, a lot more reason that goes into why they should promote a given artist or an album, or put certain songs on an album, and what direction they ought to go in. And that's the yin and yang between artist and label. You know, labels have marketing teams that go and lobby the radio folks. Can you please spin this? Can you please spin this? Can you please spin this? If you're doing it on your own as an artist, you don't get the spins. You don't have the relationships, and that costs money. And labels, they have that if they survive. But a lot of labels shut down too. Even big labels, just like big corporations, go out of business over time. Not only for competitive reasons, but they make fundamentally bad decisions, or decisions that just didn't work. So when you look at the commercial side of Dwight's life, one, Dwight's always going to have fans. He's always going to be able to make it financially. There's no question about that. I mean, he's made that, you know. The Allman Brothers would play the Beacon once a year for 3 weeks. The Beacon in New York. I think there are 3,000 seats there. I actually was backstage once, and I got to meet Greg, J-Mo, Butch, Derek, and Mark Quinones, who was the 3rd drummer added to them. But financially, they made a killing doing the Beacon for those 3 weeks. And it's only 3,000 seats. Dwight would have no problem, even in New York, where country's not as big as in the South, but it's still a lot bigger than you think, selling out the Beacon, for example. So financially, I don't cry for Dwight. I'm very happy for him, and seems like a good dude. Has good insight into his girlfriends and all that. But the East Coast, West Coast thing, that's tough too. So What a journey, Renee. What a journey. I hope you enjoyed doing that with me, everybody. But, you know, Renee Mooberry has been the one who's inspired that, as well as the Leanne trip down Leanne Lane. But this one with Dwight is especially dear to my heart because he's now in my top 3 favorite country artists. Songs that give me a certain feel more than other artists. Miranda, Waylon, and Dwight. Quite a combination, huh? All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. There's the end of part 5 of Dwight Yoakam's history. And maybe there'll be a part 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 down the line. Have a great day. I'll see you on another video. Keep rocking the country.